Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's NCI Group webinar. My name is Simon. I'm an account manager here at NCI and as well responsible for CARES in NCI Denmark. I've been looking really forward to today's webinar because we are joined by no other than Ivan from CARES, who will give a short introduction in a minute, of course. Before I hand over the word to Ivan, I would like to take you through some practical stuff. I will try and keep it as short as possible. All attendees at this webinar are muted, but you will have a Q&A section below or in the top of the screen where you are able to ask any questions you might have. We will, of course, record this webinar and share it later on our NCI websites, so you are able to see it again, or maybe share it with a colleague if you want to. At the end, we hope you will maybe spend a minute answering some questions so we are able to keep improving. Thank you. So, jumping over to the agenda for today. We will, of course, tell you a bit about some of the latest news in Enscape 4.2, as well give a short introduction to Enscape Impact, and as well share some news about V-Ray 7. Ivan will also tell a bit about how you're able to transfer your model from Enscape to V-Ray to make the most ideal combination for the best possible end result. Ivan will also tell a bit about the future at CARES and how they are trying to improve their products and what might be in the pipeline. We will end off the webinar with a Q&A session. So as told, please keep them questions coming so we can answer them at the end. So, Ivan, could you please give a short introduction? You might be muted. Thank you.
I guess I'm not muted anymore.
No, not anymore.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's really nice to be here today. Thank you for the great introduction, Simon. It was a pleasure. And today we will talk about all of these things that you can see right now in the agenda. We will see the latest and greatest in Enscape. We will see how to transfer that into V-Ray, and to see some really cool new stuff in V-Ray that are coming in the next weeks. The project I'm going to talk about is for, it's a Revit building. It's an office building. It was created a few years ago, and it was used in many different videos, tutorials, and everything else. So we'll see some practical things and how we can take advantage of V-Ray or Enscape to make beautiful projects. And actually that project was transferred from Enscape to V-Ray. So you see that in action as well. Let me share my screen. Can you confirm that you can see what I'm showing right now? Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned, we'll see how to transfer information from Enscape to V-Ray and how we can prepare our projects in Enscape, some really cool and interesting things there, as well as how to enhance everything in V-Ray. Probably some of you are not aware what is the difference between both of them. Well, the difference between both of them is that with Enscape, we can have that real-time experience. We can really easy iterate. We can see everything in real time. We can have really fast interaction with our project, and we can see everything rendered at the moment. While on the other hand, when we want to have slightly higher photorealistic quality, we can turn to V-Ray, where we can have those nice reflections, lighting, and everything else, and enhance our project. And this is what we are going to do today. So we already saw the agenda. And before we start, I would like to ask you, which render engines do you use primarily? This will help me to focus more on some moments in the presentation. So I will launch a short poll. I guess you can see it right now. So the question is, which render engine do you use now, primarily used? Enscape, V-Ray, or something else, or I'm new to rendering? I will give you just a few moments to give your response, and we will see the result right now. Okay, I think it's enough. Let's share the results. Okay, not sure that we can use it. You can.
I think we might
can you
have an
see
issue.
something? Maybe
I think we might have an issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me try again, Ivan. Give me 1 second. Let's try again.
Sure. Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, now we have some. Okay, that's great. I think this will be enough. Okay, let's share the results. Can you see them? Just for confirmation.
Yes.
Okay, great. So most of you obviously are using Enscape, which is great. We'll see some really nice and cool tips and tricks, but a lot of you are also using V-Ray, so perfect combination. We will see how to transfer easily our project and how we can enhance some things, some new things from V-Ray 7 and some more interesting things from our new product. And also we have a lot of people who are new to rendering. That's great because now you can see V-Ray, you can see Enscape, and you can try both of them, and you can decide for you which is best for your needs and which one to start using. Okay, let's moving on. First, we'll start with the first render engine, the most popular right now in the polls, Enscape. And few words about Enscape for people who are new to rendering. Enscape is great for one simple reason. It's really fast and responsive, and the user interface is really easy. One of our goals creating Enscape is to have something that is integrated into the design track, because in the past, we had to create the model, export everything, send it to someone who is wiring or who can make the visualizations. But nowadays, that's not the case anymore. We can render while we are working. And before, actually, I suppose that I can show you some of the things live directly right here. So I will open Revit, and if you go to the top tabs right here, you can see that Enscape is in the ribbon, integrated into Revit seamlessly, and we have a lot of tabs. As I mentioned, it's really easy to use. It's almost like playing a game. We can just click on the start button right here, and we will launch Enscape. It will take a moment to load everything. We can see that it's loading very fast. Here we can see the model we have, and just in a second, okay, it will be loaded. Here it is. We can navigate just like in a game, so it's really easy to use. We have the lighting, everything is already rendered, as I mentioned. We don't wait to render anything, everything is already presented, and we can start using it. So this is the easiest way to create beautiful images, and we can always export images, animations, or something else. Right now, I want to start with something relatively new. I would like to start with something very popular today, something that is important for the whole industry, the AI. And the first thing that I will start with is the AI enhancer. So here we can see that we can enhance an image. Let's find a suitable one with a human, for example, the girl over here. I will click the enhance button, and it will export an image really fast and really easy. So now the next questions that we will have is where to put it. So it will open the Kiosk Cloud collaboration, where we will be able to send the project on the cloud. And I think I already have it, but before that, let's turn back to our presentation and see how it actually works and what it will do. So as you can see right here, in our projects, usually we have artificial elements like buildings and everything else. Not artificial, probably it's not the right word, but the architecture and the nature. And the thing that we will do right here is to enhance only the objects that are outside of the architectural project itself, like the nature or people and things like that, which can drastically enhance the realism in our images. Of course, the architecture will stay intact because it's very important to not mess with the architecture with the AI, right? We just want to enhance the nature or the people, but not touching the materials of the building or the building itself. This is very important. Going back to our Enscape project, just a second. Okay, here it is, the Chaos Cloud collaboration. It's really easy, just need to choose the folder we want, or we can create a new folder, upload the image, and view the image on the cloud. Here, the AI will need a few moments to enhance the image, and here is the stop button. Here we can see that it's currently enhancing the image. It depends on many things right now, of the integration, of course, for the landscape. But while we are waiting for that, I can show you other examples I've already done to show, to see actually where are the good parts of the AI and where we need to be careful because it's a new technology. We all know that. And as we can see right here, the result provided by the AI enhancer are generated for an artificial intelligence, and we should be careful with that. Our advice is to always revise the results because the artificial intelligence nowadays is still not predictable enough. Let's be honest about that. But if we take a look at some of the images, for example, this one, we'll see that we have versions right here. This is actually thanks to the Chaos Cloud collaboration platform where we can compare them and where the enhancement will take place. And if we want to compare both of the images, we can just click on the compare, and now we can see the difference with the AI and without the AI. On the left side with the dock, we can see the original image without the AI enhancer. And if I move the slider to the left, we'll see the enhanced image. So you can see that the nature is much better right here. The grass is improved. It's not the plain grass from Enscape. We have much more details. We have few different types of grasses. We saw the message right here that our image is ready. And yeah, we have more details into the nature. Here we can see as well that the trunk of the tree is improved. Okay. Let's see another image. Maybe the girl over here. So if I have to compare both of these versions, we can see the original model from very close. Of course, the people are not they're not very highly detailed. And this is normal because we don't want to sacrifice from the performance in Enscape. And that's why they're optimized. But if we want to have more details, we can just enhance the image and see the result. This is the enhanced result on the clouds. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, here is the folder. Maybe the example we did right now. Okay, we have the girl enhanced, again, much more realistic. And the building itself, the pavement, are intact. Okay, it's much more realistic. Let's take a look where and when to be careful, if I can describe it like that, because as I mentioned, sometimes we need to be careful with the results. They're not perfect every time. For example, right here, you see that the leaves are kind of going out of the tree, which is not something scary, or it's not something very important right now because we will not see that. If I zoom out, we'll see just a tree, which looks fine, pretty good. But sometimes we can have strange results. This is an AI after all, and we should be careful with that. Okay, maybe something else. Okay, here we can see the leaves that are going out of the trunk. This is something important, something we need to be careful with. Otherwise, if we take a look at on the greenery, let's compare the trees. Again, the difference is just a second. Okay, this is the original one on the right, and on the left side we have the enhanced image, and the difference is huge on the greenery itself as well. Maybe the tree right here. Hope that it's visible because currently we're streaming, but I hope that you try the feature right out of the meeting, right out of the webinar. And yeah, this is the thing that I wanted to start because the AI is probably the most important topic nowadays. And yeah, it's something really important, something that we all talk about nowadays. Another thing I would like to say right here, as you can see, the AI is not replacing our tasks, it helps us because it will not touch the architecture. We are responsible for the architecture and we're responsible for the materials on the buildings and the pavement and everything else. But when it comes to the elements that we don't want to spend a lot of time, like the greenery or people or things like that, we can use the AI to enhance our images and make them more realistic right out of the box. Now let's go back to our presentation. As I mentioned, I've already recorded some of the results right here, so keep in mind that I will skip them because we already saw them live. And let's move to another topic. At the beginning of that project, starting from the beginning, of course, we wanted to have something like a conceptual renders. Just like in the real world, when we make architecture, at the beginning, we don't want to get into a lot of details. We want to have an idea how the image should look like, how the architecture will look like, but something like an overall, let's say, view of the building, not exactly and not necessary to have every single detail of the building, because when we do that at the beginning, the client maybe attach it too much to the initial project where we are not absolutely sure what exactly we want to have. I mean, with the small details. In those cases, when we want to pay attention only on the overall architecture, only on the overall, let's say, volumes or spaces or things like that, we can use something else. We can use some of the styles and we can create beautiful images. Probably a lot of you, especially the Enscape users, already know that we can have something like a black-white image without materials. This can help us to create these, let's say, conceptual images. And this is really nice. And a lot of people say that they want to have more options for these conceptual renders. For that reason, we've decided to add new modes right here. Let's take a look at them. The first one is the sketch one, where we have 3 different options. Let's start with the pen. As you can see, we have something like a drawing. And this is a really cool way. We can just export an image that looks like a drawing. And there are a lot of ways to control it. The first parameter right here is the outline. So we can easily make them thicker or less visible. Let's keep it to normal for now. The other thing is the jitter. You know that in the real world, probably we will not have perfectly straight lines, vertical and horizontal. We will have some, let's say, bending. And with that parameter, we can achieve, just pay attention how not perfect is the line right here. It's like drawn from a real human, kind of. Of course, I don't want them to be very wavy, if I can describe it like that. I want them to be something in the middle. So I will keep it like 30% or 40, not more than 50. Another thing that I really like is the option to extend the lines, which is very typical for a lot of the architectural images. In those cases, we can significantly enhance them, and this will bring a lot more, let's say, not attention, but it will make them a lot more architectural. drawings. I still remember in the past when we were making the architectural drawings by hand, we were very often exaggerate this one just to, let's say, show and emphasize on the perspective in the image. So now we can do that really easy. We have another option right here to use the pencil, which is also really cool because it will give another, let's say, perspective of the image. We can choose to have transparent or not glass, and the shadows can be hatched or no. And we have a core pencil, which is also really cool. I really like the shadows in it. They're like graffiti or something like that. It's almost like a drawing from the real world. Okay. And the best part is that we can have actually an animation of it, and it's alive. So yeah, we can move around, we can export the space and export images at every moment. This is a really nice way to start a project and create beautiful images right out of the box, where we don't want to have a lot of attention on small details, because everything, as you can see right here, is more like a drawing. It's more conceptual. It's not, let's say, focusing on all the small details. They're ignored in that way. So we have just the concept of the building. And there is another mode from the sketches. It's called watercolor, which is also really nice. It will simulate. It's self-explanatory. Actually, we can create watercolor effect, which is also really cool, similar to the previous mode. And we can have beautiful watercolor effect for our conceptual project. We can increase the details right here. Most of these parameters and sliders are self-explanatory. We can have more or less details. I prefer to have more right here. We can have the bleeding effect, because you know how in the watercolor we have something like a mixed colors from the water itself. This is a very typical effect for the watercolor, so we can control it from the slider of the bleeding itself. The effect is not very strong. Keep in mind that we can increase them or decrease them, but yeah, they will not be, let's say, too aggressive, because we want to keep them beautiful right out of the box and just want to polish them instead of making everything customizable. Keep it simple and user-friendly. We can increase or decrease the gradient as well, so you can just play around with these settings and see what are the best settings for your particular project. Going back to the presentation, we already saw all these things. And I want to show you also that we can create and render a video, and we can later on mix all of these styles in a simple video, which will be a really nice way to express your conceptual render. So we can have beautiful animations and we can export them. Okay, I think we can move on to the next question from our polls. And let's launch it. Do we have, is it working, or again, it's not? Oh, okay, it's working.
It's working.
Okay, just a few moments to gather some results. And I think this is enough. Let's share the results. I guess you can see them right now. So how important is the sustainability in our day-to-day work? Well, nowadays, it's true that it's getting more and more important. And if they're somehow important in a lot of projects, they're very important. And we can see that right here in the polls. That's why we've decided that maybe we can give a support, if I can describe it like that, inside of Enscape with a new add-on. And remember how we started. At the beginning, the visualization was kind of separated from the design track. We had the design track, but we had the visualization track separately, and we had to export everything, send it to another person to conduct all of these visualization processes and send us the visualization. So it was separated from us. Nowadays, that's not the case, but it's still the case with the building performance. Now we still need to export our project, send it to engineers who can create all these calculations and everything else. And this is a very heavy process that requires a lot of knowledge, and actually it will require us to have education, in some cases bachelor degree. If it depends on the region, of course. And the truth is that when we export these things, send them for evaluation or certification, then we'll receive again the results, and sometimes we need to change them. And this can be a very costly process. So we've decided to integrate that into our workflow and have something like a building performance directly right here. So if I go right here, you can see that it's already, the button is presented right here. And to start, first, we need to choose a location. We can choose Denmark or Norway or Sydney, or why not USA or somewhere else. Of course, just like every project, we need to set the location first, just like the design process itself. And I'm sure that when we make a project, we all know where exactly it will be located. The next thing that we need to decide is the type of the building. But this is already decided when we start designing something, right? We will have some requirements at the beginning. Either it will be a single family home, or it will be a multi-family or office, school, university, maybe a hospital or dining. So this is the next thing that we need to decide. After that, we need to choose the year that it is built. If it's built now, we'll just type the year we are currently in, or if it's going to be a renovation, we can choose between a previous date. And lastly, if there was a renovation, we can select the renovation. It will take a few moments, so while it's calculating, I want to show you some examples right here. Of course, when here we are choosing all these things, and then we have false score, so we can present it directly in our viewport and see and have information how much energy it will, let's say, it will be needed for cooling, how much energy for heating, or the peak watts of the building. And this is not information. Keep in mind that this is not an information for certification. This is something that can guide us and can help us to have more information about our design and to be well prepared. So at the end, when we decide to send that to the engineers and for certification, to be, let's say, more confident that we are providing design that will be certified. So this is a really good guide. It will need some time, obviously. I think that it's because of the mod. Okay, going back to the presentation. Let's take a look at another example. Just want to show you, as we mentioned, all these parameters, and it will generate the information right here. So the main information that we will have is the peak watts, as I mentioned, of the building, the total carbon emissions. The carbon emissions are getting more and more popular topic nowadays. Energy use intensity and the end energy use separated by cooling, hot water, lighting, equipment, and all these things listed right here. And this will lead us to the next question. which is just a second. It's for V-Ray. So now it was the time to move to V-Ray. And before that, let's see the next question. What is your V-Ray experience? Because I saw that there are some V-Ray users among you. So let's see. Oh, wow, we have very diverse results right here, which is great. Okay, I think we're ready with the poll, share the results. And most of us are beginners, obviously. We have some intermediate users and some advanced users, really good distribution. Let's now move on to V-Ray and see the results right here. Okay, the first thing was, of course, to render the V-Ray, the Enscape information, because our project was already set with V-Ray. So for that reason, we are taking advantage of the, let's say, so-called bridge, which is something by default. It will work right out of the box. If we already have the information right here, if we already have the Enscape project, which is available, we've already prepared everything, and we just want to have slightly better results, we just need to go to V-Ray, select the camera we want to be rendered, and then click the render button. That's all. And all the information will be presented right here. The video recording. And when we click the render button, it will grab all the information from Enscape and to render it. The good thing right here is that we will not have to do all these things from scratch. We already prepared the lighting, we already prepared the materials from Enscape, the trees, the people, and everything else. And when we click the render button, V-Ray will grab that information and it will render it. So now we just need to polish these things. You know, maybe we can switch the trees with trees from the V-Ray library, or use an HDRI lighting or something like that, and start enhancing our project. Basically, instead of starting from scratch and using V-Ray geometries and V-Ray lighting, we can just polish what needs to be polished. And let's move on with some interesting improvements. So one really important, really cool thing in V-Ray 7 that we are expecting, keep in mind that these things right here are from V-Ray 7, which is still not released, and it will be released in the near future. So the first thing, Gaussian spots. Nowadays, the Gaussian spots are getting more and more popular. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of them, but this is something like the next generation of the point clouds, and they will be available in V-Ray. Let's see how they look like. Basically, if we want to have the perfect environment for our projects, we can take some pictures with the drone or hire someone with the drone to take a video, and then we can generate them thanks to an artificial intelligence. This is suitable for a lot of projects, because with a drone pictures, we can generate a file that we can use in V-Ray, and we can set it really easy and really fast. Load the file and then set it right here, move it up on the project until we match the Gaussian spot with the building, and we can achieve really good results. Keep in mind that this is a point cloud that is extremely realistic. You can notice that right here we have all these trees, all these buildings and streets and grass and everything else, and it's a geometry. It's not just a picture. It's not a simple 2D image. It's a point cloud with a geometry. Then we're going closer, and we wanted to have all these scatters to create the greenery in our project. For that reason, we're using scatters. The scatters are extremely useful in such cases, because with their help, we can achieve beautiful results right out of the box. We can apply different ones, which are extremely realistic, as you can see right here, like flowers, grass, and things like that, and scatter them without any hassle. But the thing is that very often when we have these things, the ones are getting out of the edge of the boundaries. And this is something that I was discussing many years with our users, and they wanted to have something to trim them, to cut them. So now we're introducing a new option to trim all of these things. Just need to click the edge trimming, and we will have the perfect edge every time just with a single click. And sometimes we want to exclude or include different areas of the scatter, like if we have the swap right here for the path, which is above the grass. In those cases, we can just select the path we want from the area modifiers, click finish, and it will cut them directly from there or include them in that case. So we can choose, do we want them to be included or excluded from a drop-down menu. And now the path will be visible and perfectly trimmed. But sometimes we have objects that we want to, let's say, have something like a fall off around them, a soft transition between the grass and the soil, for example. In those cases, again, we can choose different objects from our project and choose the fall off parameter. So in those cases, we can create something like a leaves that are falling close to the tree, or why not if we have the soil which is cleared from the grass around the tree to again achieve that effect really easy and really fast. And in some cases, we want to scatter objects around the line. For example, we can use we can scatter the lamps. And in that case, we used the scatter exactly for that reason. We selected the lines and apply a scatter on them. And then when we start the render, we can choose before that the spline option, and then we can start the render and see that all the lamps are following the lamp. Of course, they're very dense right now, you can see it, but we can easily control the spacing between them, which can ease our work a lot. With that approach, we can scatter not only lamps, but also we can scatter a lot of cityscape elements like trash bins or benches or something else, or some bushes, for example, or greenery as well. As on the example right here, we have different greenery objects like the cypress trees and bushes scattered along a line to make something like not a fence, but yeah, like a hatch, but from like a hedge, but not from the typical hedge elements. But in those cases, you will notice that they're kind of repetitive. They're almost the same. And in the real world, we don't have such a perfect, let's say, distribution. So we can randomize them really easy and really fast in different ways. They were too perfect, so we've used a new option called randomization and transformation. So we've randomized the scale of each of them as well as the rotation. So one of them can be rotated on 30 degrees, the other one on 60, and the scale will be different for each of them. And thus we can have that diversity. We wanted to have even more control, right? Yeah, we wanted to create something like graffiti on the wall, but before that we had to create the wall material. And of course, we can always grab a material from the library, just a simple brick material, but in those cases, we wanted to have full control of it. Keep in mind that it's not necessary to create custom brick material every time. As I mentioned, we have a lot of already created materials in Enscape and V-Ray as well, but in that particular case, we've decided that we want to have full control over the appearance of the texture. And for that reason, we used another option, which is called gradient texture with texture remapping. It's kind of slightly more advanced workflow right here. So for the people who are, I will stop that. It's recorded for reasons to not have a lagging on the viewport. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we saw that we have a lot of different people in that webinar right now. We have people who are very advanced in V-Ray, but we also have people who are just starting their journey in the rendering world. So for those of you who are starting your journey, just want to make it clear that this technique right here is slightly more advanced. So we already have a lot of materials of bricks, as I mentioned. But for those of you who want to have even more control over their visualization process, they can have it. And now this is a really good example how we can create the custom wall. We can have a gradient ramp right here. And in that gradient ramp, we can use a texture for the base. And selecting different colors, as we can see right here, we can map all of these black and white colors on the texture. So overall, we can create a custom texture for our bricks with many different colors and remap the texture group. And this is the way we can create the texture. And actually, we can do a lot of things right here. We can even add a texture for each of these points. And then we have to apply the layer with the graffiti. So what we did right here, introduced another texture, which is a layer texture. So we wrap that texture with the bricks with a layer texture where we can, in a very basic way, explain, we can apply different layers, just like in Photoshop, for example, we can have additional layers. And here is the layer with the texture of the graffiti. So we can change the size, and once we are satisfied, we can just use it. Really easy and really simple. Thus, we can create not only graffiti, but also we can create some leaks on the wall or things like that, imperfections. And one of the most required things in V-Ray. Sometimes we want to focus our attention only on specific objects while we are rendering. And the rectangle render region is not the perfect one. So we've introduced another way to render only specific objects with the render regions. As you can see right here, we can control their appearance, we can move points, we can have multiple render regions or just one. And new stop button, which is something that the advanced users will know. Sometimes when we stop rendering, the denoiser level is not applied. Well, that's not an issue anymore. So we can easily apply the stop rendering, which is another way to stop the render, and it will preserve all of these render elements that are created. And in some cases in the real world photography, we want to have some imperfections, and we have them in the real world, like the chromatic aberration or the vignetting layer. I'm not sure if I pronounced that feature right, because it's an imperfection of the lenses from the photography. I think it's called vignetting. But yeah, it will make the edges of the image darker. And this is happening in the real world with the photography. So now we can do that really easy with just a simple layer. So this helps us to have more kind of realistic approach when it comes to photography. And we wanted to have that in the images in that project. So with most of the images, we've added that directly right here instead of going into Photoshop or other image editor. We have applied that render elements directly here. Also, we are using a lot of different color corrections here. Our goal was to create all of these things directly into the frame buffer. As I mentioned, instead of going out and make these changes elsewhere in some image editors like GIMP or Photoshop. And we've also wanted to have more control right here. So the thing that we added was filters. You know how in some image editors, we can create filters. Can you hear me? Just.
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear.
we do.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, so we introduced core filters that can help us to achieve different results, like black and white textures, or different sepia effects, or other core filters that we can see in many image editors. how we render it, that some of the shots were rendered with the GPU rendering, which is really fast, and now it will be even faster with the new version, where we will be able to render with the GPU really fast. And for the advanced users, you know that there are a few moments before the rendering start when it comes to the GPU rendering. Now this process is significantly shortened, so we can start rendering really fast. On the other hand, we have a lot of computers right here in the office, and I'm sure that a lot of you have more than one computers. In those cases, we can take advantage of them to render really fast, and this is how we've rendered actually most of these images with the V-Ray swarm, which will be also improved in the next version. Thus, we can apply kind of tags on each of the computers we have at the office and use them to render even faster our images. And once these images were rendered, we've ended up with all these renders for that project in V-Ray. And I guess it's time for the next question from the polls. Okay, what is important when choosing render engines? I'm not sure if it's working. Ah, it's working, okay.
It's working.
And let's give it a moment to see what is important when choosing a render engine. It will be either speed, quality, easy interface, or user-friendly and compatibility. And give it a few moments. I think that this will be just a second. Okay, they're not moving anymore, so I will stop it and show the results. Okay, obviously the most important thing is the quality, which is really cool. Of course, the quality is always important. The second most popular answer right here is the easy interface, or there is the user interface, the user-friendly experience. Of course, this is very important. If I can summarize both render engines that we saw, we have Enscape, which produces a really good quality, but it's really easy to use, really fast, and it combines most of these things. But in Enscape, probably the quality will be kind of limited. If we want to go beyond, like the very users, we're kind of limited with Enscape. On the other hand, with Enscape, we have that quality. We have really good quality. We have amazing reflections, shadows, and materials and everything else. We can achieve photorealistic results there, but it's kind of lacking when it comes to the speed. If I can we can render really fast with it, but it's not real-time render engine. It's not real-time like Enscape. But what if we can combine both of them into one single workflow? Actually, if we can combine all of these results right here, the quality, the easy interface, the speed, and the compatibility, of course. Let's see how to achieve that. Nowadays, this is possible thanks to a new hardware technology. Thanks to the RTX graphic cards, we've produced a new render engine, which is called Chaos Envision. Chaos Envision is a standalone 3D application, 3D visualization tool that can help us to render in real time, just like in Enscape, but with the quality of V-Ray. So we have both the best things of both of these worlds. We have the great quality of V-Ray in combination with the real-time experience in V-Ray. So let's see it. First, how we can go there. We can export a VR scene. From Enscape, it's really easy. We can just click the V-Ray export button and we can export the file, which will be a VR scene, the V-Ray native file format. On the other hand, in V-Ray, we can export it. Okay. We can, go to the rendering tab and there is an export button. So we can just click save and it will export a V-Ray scene file. And what to do with that V-Ray scene file. This is the viewport of Envision. We can open the file from the open menu and we'll have it. I will go really fast here. We can move around in real world. We can take a sky from the library and then we can disable the sun because we will have the sky, or keep it if we want. We can rotate the HDRI that we just dropped down from the library and achieve different look every time. Once we are ready with that, I'll skip some things and make it really fast. We can apply different 3D models from the library and apply scatters with this and achieve beautiful results every time. Really easy and really fast. Just want to pay attention how much detail we have in that grass right here. We have different species in that grass belt. And the best thing actually is that we can have animated people and cars. Let's start with the animation part right here. If we draw a line and put a car on it, apply the car on the line or just select a spline for the car, we can have a car animation. Really easy and with ease. If the position of the car is wrong, we can rotate it and we can have a preview. Then we can export animation really easy and really fast. We can have animated crowds as well of people. Just need to select the crowds option, which is in the top view toolbar. Then we need to create a line or select an existing one, and then drag and drop animated people from the Cosmos library. Once we will skip these parts right here because I think that we have some time. And we can drag and drop them, generate them, and play the animation to see how it will look like. So they can move around, they will not overlap. So they will have their distance, they will respect their privacy, if I can describe it like that. And yeah, we'll have all of these things. An animation right here, really easy and really fast. Okay. I think I forgot something at the beginning for the Enscape part. So before we end up, I want to show you the results from the Enscape impact calculations. Here we can see all of these calculations. And here we can see the cooling and the lighting and everything else. And we can present it with false colors on the building itself. So we can see where we need to have more cooling energy and where we'll need more heating energy, and thus we can have a better idea how our project will perform in terms of energy efficiency and all these things. And this was all from my side. So if I have to summarize everything we saw today, we saw some really cool things in Enscape, how we can really easily walk around, explore the space, how we can have different conceptual images, how we can enhance our images right out of the box, taking advantage of the new AI capabilities. Also, we saw V-Ray and what we can expect from the next version, how we can improve our images with it, and how we can combine the best of both of these render engines. Speaking about AI, I would like to say a few words about something upcoming. Probably some of you have heard about Veras, which is very popular AI integration nowadays that can help us to, let's say, produce AI results right out of the box, really easy and really fast. So now I'm glad to say that they're part of the Chaos ecosystem. They're part of our family, actually. And very soon we can see how they will be integrated into our ecosystem. It's it's totally new. So we still don't have a very clear idea how it will be integrated, but I'm sure that in the near future we will see it can help us to produce even better results right out of the box. And now I think that it's time for the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Great to hear, Ivan. We had a few questions during
That's
the
awesome.
webinar, so I think let's take one at a time.
Okay.
I will read them out loud, but you're welcome to open them in the Q&A. We have one saying, does the AI enhancer work on 3D objects I made or downloaded for other places, or does it only work with Enscape models?
Well, if they're in Enscape, it will work with them, but it will work only with the props that are, let's say, not part of the architectural project, like humans or nature or things like that in Enscape. So yeah, if they're in Enscape and they're elements of the nature or people, they will be enhanced.
Perfect, perfect. And one more related to the AI enhancer. Does the AI enhancer only work at still images or also on a mono panorama view?
Well, I haven't tried that, but I think it will work.
Perfect, perfect. We can test
But
it out.
I haven't yet. We need to test that out.
Perfect. And we got one from Kevin. Is Enscape available, or will it be available inside 3ds Max or as like in the Revit preview, or will V-Ray take on tools such as AI enhancer inside the frame buffer?
Yeah. Okay, so first thing first, is Enscape available or will be inside 3ds Max? We don't have such plans for now, and the reason is because Enscape is kind of a design it's almost part of our design toolset, you know that. So in that case, it's not a good idea to implement it directly into 3ds Max, because 3ds Max is more for the visualization and definitely not so much for the design process in the architecture. It's more for the visualization. And one of the main ideas behind Enscape is to be user-friendly, really easy to use, suitable for all the architects who just, because let's face it, some of us, because I'm an architect as well, some of us wants to have something that is really easy to use, really fast, that can help them during the design process in Revit, for example, while we are designing the building. But other people, including me, prefer to have other visualization tools that will be a much more, let's say, flexible, and that can give us a lot of freedom in the visualization process. In those cases, we are turning to V-Ray or Corona in 3ds Max, and these are the tools that can help us to create the photorealistic results. And in other cases, we can just take our models from Enscape and go into Envision and create the beautiful renders there. So it depends on the needs. Enscape is suitable for the architectural design process, so this is the shortest answer why we don't have such plans for now to integrate it directly into 3ds Max, because 3ds Max is more for the visualization and not so much for the architecture. But this is a really good feedback, and we can discuss internally further about that. The next question. Yeah. Well, if we already have the AI enhancer in Enscape, at some point it will be in the V-Ray frame buffer. I'm almost sure about that. We have plans for that, but there are still plans for now. We are testing some options. You know, there is an AI laboratory here at Chaos, which is testing a lot of different AI solutions and how we can, let's say, integrate them or take advantage of them, and how we can use them in the user's workflow. And one of them is the option to enhance images directly into the frame buffer. So we are thinking about that, but once it's ready and once we implement it, we will see it.
Perfect. And we actually have a lot of questions, but we are running out of time.
Okay,
so I think we will get back to you guys with some questions after the webinar. So you of course will get an answer. of course. So Ivan, thank you very much for joining today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
And thank you all for joining the webinar, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.